This is Vanu Deschetti. I'm the Director of Marketing Sales for Aplusify. Aplusify provides Salesforce management solutions, just helping people and organizations with their Salesforce and all of the applications that they use with Salesforce. One of the things we work a lot with our clients on are event apps, whether they keep it outside of Salesforce or they integrate it. It's definitely one of our top topics. So today we have Neeraj Garg with us. He is our COO, and he actually handles a task force within our company that brings together all of our developers across different client teams. And what they do is they talk about the different apps, the different problems that associations and nonprofits, because that's the industry that we focus in on, and what they're facing with their own instances, and how can we take some of those learnings and provide them across to all of our clients. So everyone's maximizing the skill set that we've got. Neeraj, welcome today.
Thank you for the introduction.
I'm very excited about this topic. Events and meetings are something that I'm very passionate about, and I've had a conference production hat on before. And I've seen over the last 20 years all sorts of technology surrounding events and conferences. So it's great to see where we come to today and so many options, and being able to bridge the two, technology and what we actually see with conferences. So I do want to share, let me share this poll before we begin so we can see what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So those that you are took the poll and are in attendance, most of you do have Salesforce, and it seems like I'm very curious as to what some of you are offering or using for your event app in terms of, you said other. So curious as to what that is. So if you get a chance, put that in our chat. We'd love to hear from you. And whether you've done integration. So I'm not surprised that many of you have not done integration. It is a very tricky thing to do, and we'll definitely go over that as well. And we'll definitely talk about the benefits today of integrating and some of the things that we see. So Neeraj, some of the things that we're going to talk about today, I know that we've, just to kind of review, we are going to talk about the benefits of integrating, what you should look for in an event app, even if you have one selected now. There might be things that you may not know about your app that you aren't taking advantage of, or maybe you are, and you can share some stories with us. And then also our recommendations based on a technical view. So Neeraj, I'd love for you just to begin and tell us a little bit about the benefits that you see with actually integrating, because I know in the past, many organizations like to keep the event app separate from their Salesforce. Tell us a little bit about why maybe they should consider integrating the two.
Sure. So with every event that we do, right, I think I saw the polls, and most of you are using a event management app to actually support your events. Now, why do we need to integrate that event app with Salesforce? See, whenever you are having or organizing an event, it's very important that you understand your audience. So you should have a better understanding of market. And in this case, the market is your audience or the attendees who are actually going to attend your event. Now, it's always good that we have a better understanding of the people whom we are expecting in the event beforehand. We want to plan our events better. Now, how do you do that? So if you have your event app integrated with Salesforce, you can actually use your Salesforce information to better plan your events. So as most of you are using Salesforce, so you know that in Salesforce, you can actually create accounts for all the businesses, organizations, and individuals you interact with. And you store contact details related to each of these accounts. So you may be storing your organization's addresses, phone numbers, email address of your customers, social media accounts with the real-time feed visible there in Salesforce, activity history with relevant notes or documents attached. Now, when you have all this information embedded in Salesforce, and you have integrated your event app with Salesforce, you can actually use this base data to understand your customer better. So this data actually gives you a comprehensive understanding of your audience, and you will be able to plan a more intentional event. So as an example, right, if you have your contact list, you can always figure out where are all your contacts based out of. So maybe their geographical location. And when you are planning an event, that can actually help you out in planning that even in a location where most of your attendees can actually attend and it's local to them. So that would be the kind of advantage you can get, and you can have more presence of the attendees in your event. You can also know about what content will your customers be more interested in. So it's more of a better planning that you can do for your event and get better results out of a event if you have that base information embedded with Salesforce, and that can only happen if you have actually integrated your event app with Salesforce. Now that you have got a better understanding of your audience, the next thing that you do is plan your event based on the embedded knowledge you have. And when you are actually planned your event, what the thing that comes to your mind is how to actually capture that real-time data that you have during the event, because events are quick. It may be a day's event or a multiple day event, right? So it's very important that you collect your event metrics at that point of time of event. Now, how do you collect that, right? So to do that, your event management app should be mobile compatible so that you can actually collect the data on the go. Now, since Salesforce 1 is actually mobile compatible, and if you have integrated your event app with Salesforce, it actually provides you that kind of flexibility where you can manage your events data on site. So not only will you be able to capture your customer data, but I think it will actually add value to the attendees or the people whom you are inviting. So maybe they can do a mobile registration through a responsive event microsite. You can actually publish mobile passbook tickets so that you don't have that hassle of buying a ticket and showing it to someone. And maybe mobile agenda management to view and edit their event schedules. So it's very important that when you are hosting an event, you capture like what kind of sessions people are actually attending, what do they like about the speakers that you have in the events, what type of sessions they might be interested in. So all that data should be captured when the event is happening. And if you have got your event app actually integrated with Salesforce, all that real-time event metrics that you collect through your event app can actually flow seamlessly through your Salesforce data. Now, when you have actually done all this activity of capturing the data, this can be actually used to plan your next event. See, there is no point in planning a next event without actually analyzing what positives or what negatives you had in your previous event. So without knowing how your past events have succeeded, you will not be able to move forward with the upcoming events in a strategic way. So it's very important that you collect data through your event management app real time and pass it on through Salesforce, where you can actually do a kind of analysis of the data to understand what were your positives and negatives in that event. So Salesforce has that kind of dashboards and reports functionality, which actually help you out in organizing your data better and visually providing you some kind of tools so that you can visualize your event data. So some of the examples may be that you can break down your data into the ticket sales broken down by price and type, the total event revenue that you collected and the type of revenue that you collected. So type of revenue means ticket sales, merchandise, or additional donations you might have received. Then attendance per event. So attendance per event, attendance per session. What were your guest types like? Then guest engagement based on post-event survey results. So all this can actually help you analyze your event data and plan your next event. And when you have got all this kind of analysis done in Salesforce through the data that you have captured as real-time data from your event management app, it can actually help you run some predictive algorithms, and you can predict your customers thinking better. So maybe as an example, when you have collated the post-event data and analyzed it, you may be able to see like what content will your customers were most interested in, or maybe you can break your ticket pricing on the guest type. So guest type can be your members, your non-members, your VIPs, major donors, right? So you can just break down your ticket pricing based on how your guest types were. You can plan your next sessions based on what type of sessions your customers or attendees were interested in. And all these kind of analysis you can do. And so once you have done that predictive analysis, right, and done that analysis for your real-time event metrics, it helps you plan your events in a much strategic way. And obviously, once you have got this pricing data, which you can predict, you can actually run a lot of campaigns based on your predictions. Now, if you talk about marketing results, your marketing results are generally based on the communication that you have with your attendees. And one of the major features that fetches marketing results is email, because email is a crucial component of event marketing and communications. I think it is the most common way that you can communicate with your guests and attendees. So maybe based on your customer taste, maybe based on your customer interests. So if you, as an example, if you know that this one of the attendees was more interested in the in a particular type of session, so you can actually send personalized emails, mass mails to get the word out to a particular set of attendees, right? Instead of just having a generalized email, you can personalize your email because you know your customers better now. You can design professional email templates for all event-related scenarios, and that would actually help you in saving your time. Maybe you can monitor the clicks and the emails that have been opened by your customers and what type of emails are they interested in. And I think one of the unique features that Salesforce provides, if you have integrated your app with Salesforce, is custom fields, right? Because once you have got all the information, it is very important that you pass on that information to your custom fields. So for instance, you want to transfer the answers from your registration form to your contact profile for future reference. There might not be fields which are available in Salesforce, and you might have to create some extra fields like dietary restrictions for your customers. Maybe what are their communication preferences? What are the t-shirt sizes that you might have distributed? What are the membership numbers for your team? So all that kind of information, if you have, that actually helps you in producing great marketing results. So just to summarize, right? So you understand your customer better. You have a specific audience you need to be targeted. You plan your event. You collect real-time event metrics through your event. Then you churn that data and analyze your customers, their behavior, the type of sessions they attend, what emails are they interested in. You run a kind of predictive pricing based on the analysis that you have done, and then run your email campaigns based on the data that you have, which is actually going to fetch you greater marketing results. So it's more of like all these 5 points are linked together and tied together. And if you do all these activities, every event that you plan would be much better than the previous event. And you can have a more strategic approach of planning your events just rather than organizing an event. It would be a more strategic approach where you will actually be able to meet your objectives out of the event. And all these data that you have stored, right, that can actually help you in your future events that you plan, because data is precious, and that too an organized data that you have done in Salesforce that can help you out.
Neeraj, before we move on, we've got a couple of good questions I think relates to the benefits portion of this conversation. And Helen asked, what are some of the most beneficial things to sync into Salesforce from an event app? And I think that has a lot to do with talking about the cross-filtering of data, the real-time event metrics, because I know conference planners, meeting planners, they have the data that they need to run the event, to know who their audience is. But what about, what information have you seen or you think is almost required to bring over into Salesforce? What's the most helpful that you've seen working with our clients?
I think the most important information that we have seen is the real-time data that we capture during the events. Like I was talking about all these sessions and the events that you do in the event. Now it's very important to understand what the customer behavior is during the events. What are their likings? What are their non-likings? What are they interested in, more interested in? So if a particular user is actually interested in some kind of session, we understand that he has more inclination or his need is more into that session, and we can actually grid into that information and provide him some more information on that type of session, which can actually fetch you greater marketing results, because that information will be very, very specific to what he needs rather than a generalized mail about the event. So an event is a generalized event, right? What we need to extract out of every event is particular things that strikes your attendees, or that is a striking point of your event. Maybe you can have your survey forms filled in from your attendees that attend and get that feedback from them. And that can actually help you plan your next event better.
Yeah, I can actually give you an example of in a previous life running webinars for an association, and the webinars had different topics. And in the very beginning, when we had our database, we had no idea what people were interested in specifically. But being able to track, different topics of the webinars, we started noticing certain people, certain titles, certain job functions, like certain topics. And then we were able to, after collecting all that data in our database, able to segment that data so we can do some smart marketing. I mean, we talk about this artificial intelligence, but that's basically what it is being able to collect enough data so you can be better at your marketing. Also, Neeraj, can you talk to us a little bit about the syncing of data? I know when I talk to a lot of, especially associations and those have donors, when they want to make the single sign-on process very easy for their donors, for their members. And so once they log into a system, they should be able to access everything with that particular organization in terms of what their profile is. So if it's a member, they log in, they can see all of the events and conferences they've registered for, anything that's associated with LMS, but their profile, who they are, their contact information should stay the same among all of those applications. In doing so, can you talk a little bit how Salesforce helps with perhaps being the hub of where that information lies and how that syncing works? Like if they change their information in an event app that's not synced with Salesforce, how does that, what should organizations do? What's the best practice there?
Yeah, that is a very valid question, Vinu, and I think a lot of organizations face this, right? Because they have an event management app, and actually they have data which they capture in the events, right? But there is no means that that data is actually getting transferred to a single system or a single data source. So when I was talking about integration with Salesforce, what that integration helps you with is, since your app is talking to Salesforce and your data is basically being cross-filtered between these two systems. So all the data that you capture, it actually resides in Salesforce then, right? And then there is one system that you can take care of, right? If you're, so imagine a situation where you have an integration app, event app, which is actually a separate app, and then Salesforce is separate, and there are two different systems talking to two different databases, right? So the same contact you might have in Salesforce might be a different contact in your event database. So it may be that a person X in Salesforce has a different identity in the event management app, and since he's our existing customer, you're not able to identify him because the syncing is not there. And then obviously that conversation takes you to a different level because you are not equipped with your current customers and you don't know whether he's your current customer or not. So it's very important that you integrate these two systems so that you have one data source, one source of knowledge, which is spread out. So instead of having separate siloed systems, it's better to have one system where the information flows so that you have a better understanding of your customer and you are able to get better marketing results, because it may be that from your event management app, you send an email to the same customer twice. So you are pulling the data from the Salesforce as well. You are pulling the data from the event management app and sending similar mails to the same person, which in fact create a bad impression on most of the customers. And that is what we call duplicate data, right? So same person residing with two different informations in two different systems. And that is what people or end customers don't like. They don't like a flurry of mails floating through them. They just like one mail or maybe some mails, and that you can only do if you better understand your customer and you have organized your data well in one system.
Let's get into when people are looking for event apps, whether they have their one already chosen or they're looking for a change or they're looking for a new one. What are some of the features that you think organizations are looking for, or what they should be looking for?
Yeah, so I think the foremost and the most important feature that they should be looking for is in an event management app is whether that event management app is a native Salesforce app. Now, I have seen and I have talked to a lot of people who have different notions about what is actually a Salesforce native app. People think that any app that lies in the app exchange in Salesforce is a Salesforce native app. But I think, let me tell you, most of the apps available on Salesforce App Exchange are not non-native. So it's very important to understand what is a native app. So when I say native app, I mean three factors that actually build a native app. So a native app is actually built on top of Salesforce. It entirely runs within the Salesforce infrastructure, and it actually functions as an extension of your Salesforce CRM, right? So a lot of people think that App Exchange apps, any event management app that exists in App Exchange is a native app. It's not. It's better to do your research and find out Salesforce native app. Now, I will tell you like what are the drawbacks of going with a non-Salesforce native app. So as I told you, Salesforce native app is built on top of Salesforce and uses entirely the same infrastructure as Salesforce. Now, if you are actually using a non-native app, as these apps are not built within Salesforce and they don't run entirely within Salesforce, they will always require a third-party integration to work with your Salesforce CRM. So it is not a seamless integration. You will
I think we may be having a small technical difficulty. We lost Neeraj there. Neeraj? Well, I will continue without you, Neeraj. And when you can join us, please do join back in. You know, Neeraj really is the technical person that can talk about those native applications. I can move on to more about knowing what your event needs are. There's so many different event apps out there, and you've got to really find one that fits what you're looking for. And some of those things can be, are you offering free events? Are you trying to have complicated meaning a very smart pricing model with your events, not member, non-member dues, student fees, those kind of things, and whether your app can take that on. You also think about capacity. And nowadays, with a lot of organizations going virtual, you want to take a look at how does your registration platform work with virtual conference platforms out there? Do they talk to each other? Do you need it to? And it's really just taking a look at what is at the end of the day, what is your organization wanting to get out of it? Is it simply a financial transaction tool where you're collecting basic data to print out a badge and collect money? Or are you really trying to collect more detailed information about your registrant behavior? And as Neeraj talked a lot about that in the previous slide, talking about those metrics that we can obtain, as well as we can entertain and be able to segment that data going forward. And then also, if you have different types of events, whether it's just a webinar, a multi-day conference, a one-day workshop, and now even webinars, you want to take a look at your event app and see if that can accommodate all of your needs. I know having worked with a lot of different clients with a lot of different platforms, it's a lot to keep track of where your registrants lie. So make it easy on yourself and try to find an event app that's really flexible for what you need. Also, it depends on, again, how sophisticated of an app do you need. Again, if you're looking for something that's very transactional and gives you the basic information, then those kind of apps are for you. But if you want to be a little bit more sophisticated in your data collection and your marketing, and I think really when you start looking at some of that AI work that you want to get into in the future, you want to find those apps that allow you to customize a lot of it. Go beyond branding. We're talking about sophisticated data collection, and just allowing your attendees to do more with providing you with that information. And then budget. So event apps can run the gamut. So there are free apps out there that doesn't give you a lot of customization, doesn't give you a lot of opportunity to customize reports, dashboards, and all of the fancy bells and whistles, but that might be fine. That might not, you may just need something simple and on the lower end of your budget spectrum there. On the other end, you may want everything that it can offer, from doing event management to marketing to and actually registration, badge printing, and all of that. And the more sophisticated the application is and the more you want it to do, that's when your price tag goes up. And then the other thing you want to take a look at is how event apps charge for integration with Salesforce. Is there a charge? Is it easy? Is it something you can do yourself within the organization, or do you need a third party to help? Obviously, we always like to think everyone needs help. We'd love to help them out with their integration. But those are kind of some of the things. And I think we have Neeraj back. Neeraj, are you with us?
Yes, I'm back.
That's okay. I held down the fort for you for a little bit.
No problems.
When you left us, you were talking about the native apps. I kind of covered some of the other items on our list here, but I think the native apps from a technical standpoint, that's really where I rely on our team and you to explain that more.
Sure. So as I was talking, right, since native apps are built on the Salesforce platform, so it's a seamless integration between Salesforce and your native app, and you don't need to do any kind of third-party integrations with your Salesforce native app. So whenever you are actually looking for a new event management app, I would always recommend that you can do your search properly, and maybe if required, go for a Salesforce native app. And if you're not familiar with what is a Salesforce native app, maybe it's important to get that help from maybe third-party consultants who can actually guide you better in choosing the right Salesforce app for you. Now, moving on, obviously first is go for a Salesforce native app. Then it's very important to understand what your event needs are. So it may be that, and every organization and every association has a different event need and they plan different events. So it may be that you are more planning on fundraising events like auctions or walk-run events. And these events prioritize online and on-site donations along with attendee management. So it's important to determine whether you are actually fundraising associations where you are more into like fundraising events. Are you more into conferences where it is like a multi-day affair where you have multiple sessions with your registration capabilities? You have multiple speakers, vendors who are actually attending those conferences. Are you actually doing classes or training courses? Or is it more about RSVP events, which might be just sent out to a specific segment of your sales? So it's very important to understand what your event needs are. Because based on different event needs, different event management app would suit you. And I think we can discuss further like what event management apps can you actually cater for your event. Yeah, so these are the like 5 event management apps that we actually recommend, and each of them actually caters to a different need and different size of audience, which we can actually study later.
Well, Andrew,
So,
Neeraj, before we go on to the top 5 recommendations, I think also one of the things that we may want to take a look at in terms of organizations and what you're looking for in an app is take a look at what your different departments need. I have seen a lot of times where the event app lies in the conference and meetings events department, and it's kind of worked in its silo there, and it's been a lot just because that's the meeting planner or the event planner really knows what he or she needs and can set it up and get going. Great apps for that. But I think now what you're talking about in terms of integrating and providing transparency and views into all of this data, there are other departments that can get involved, ranging from marketing, from membership, fundraising, even at the finance department. So it's really also figuring out, if you do go the app route and you do go through the integration route, how does that also look like for those different departments? I know as a meeting planner, I would never want anybody touching my event app, but there's so much value to the organization to perhaps take a look at some of that data, and that can be done, take a look at it, help with some of that data if you transition or do some of the integration with Salesforce. Sorry, just had to pipe that bit in. We can, Neeraj, do you want to walk us through some of your favorite apps and how you look at them and why you like them?
Yeah, so I think all of these apps is something that we recommend, right? But if you ask me like what is my favorite app, it actually depends on the kind of customizability and flexibility it can provide. And if you can see in this presentation, right, we have actually labeled out different apps based on the integration required. So if you talk about Quantify Events, since Quantify Events is a Salesforce native app, you don't require any integration because it's actually built on Salesforce. So the database is the same. You don't require any integration. The data flows seamlessly. So no integration effort required. Similarly, if you go for C event, obviously it's a big app and it's not a native app. So you require a high level of integration to actually integrate that with Salesforce. It's not that it's not feasible, but you can always do that. For Eventry, obviously, it's so tough to actually integrate that with Salesforce, and you can actually do it that easily by using third-party tools. Similarly, Eventbrite, it's more of like you need some kind of integrations there. Similarly, Ticket Manager is a small app, and you can easily integrate that with Salesforce. So in terms of integrations, if you talk about Quantify Events and Ticket Managers, take a front seat because you obviously can integrate that with Salesforce very easily. In terms of customization, obviously, again, Quantify Events is a very flexible app. It provides a lot of flexibility. Now, when I talk about flexibility, I think there is a set of questions that you should ask to determine whether your event app is actually flexible or not. Now, these questions can be: how many apps does this app allow you to plan? So there are some solutions which are actually priced per event. So you should actually look for an app that is more scalable and does not limit you to a number of events that you can plan. No one wants to have a limit on the number of events that you can plan. And does this event management app that actually you are searching for, it actually is a free, it is actually, does it work for both free and paid events? Because if you are more on free events and you actually buy event management app, which is more related to paid events, then you will have some integration issues with your payment processor. So it's very important that you determine what the flexibility is about your event management app. And foremost, I think whether your event management app is on the cloud and mobile compatible. Because if it is not mobile compatible, it's very difficult to capture real-time data for it because you cannot capture the data as you go. So it's important that your app is flexible and your app is basically cloud-based and it's mobile compatible. So that is what we mean by flexibility, and obviously customization is something that you can do in your apps based on how customizable it is. So
I will interject here. We do have one typo on this slide, and I apologize for that. The Eventbrite budget should not have $3 signs. It should be more like $1 signs. So just to set the record straight there.
Yeah. And obviously, yeah, as we told, budget is obviously something that organizations have to decide on where they should go and where they should actually go for the app. And even planning scale, whether you're actually planning a small sized company where you can actually plan for small sized events, mid-sized events, large scale events. And depending on the size, like C event is generally for large scale events. It caters to a large scale, and that is why the dollar price is so high. Ticket Manager, it just caters for the smaller events. And Fontiva obviously can cater to all these three events. So based on all these parameters, our favorite recommended app would be Fontiva Events because it's flexible. It is first and foremost a native Salesforce app, so there is no integration issues involved. It is flexible, customizable, and obviously the price is reasonable as well. So that would be our bet when we recommend an app.
And we had a question in regards, what do the person icons mean in this event planning scale? And the one person just means it's really perfect for a small sized event. And then a mid-size is the one with the 3 people, and then large scale is with the 6 people in it. So it's merely just a representation of those entries right there. So I wanted to open up the floor. Make sure if you have any questions, definitely ask those questions in the Q&A or in the webinar chat. We do have a few that we have here. So let's kind of let Barbara ask, how difficult is it to craft analytic algorithms in real time when we are busy running sessions? She's worried about having enough brain cells available while monitoring speakers and everything else. So I think Barbara's looking for, you know, if you wanted to run a report quickly while a session is going on, do you recommend doing those on the fly or having those predefined?
Actually, when you are running those algorithms, and as I talked about, if you have your event app integrated with Salesforce has a lot of report and dashboards feature which can actually pull out those data very fast in a matter of seconds, and you can actually visualize that data through a dashboard or a report. So you can do either after the event, or you can run them real time as well to understand where the statistics are. So it's not difficult because it's all out of the box feature from Salesforce to run those analytics.
We have another question from Julio. Does Salesforce have an event module built into Salesforce? Is there a reason why we need to have an additional app? Can we just use Salesforce for what it offers?
Yeah, so see, it depends. Salesforce does not offer a complete event management platform, so as to say. And all the needs of an event management app is not catered by Salesforce, and that is why we should go for an event management app, because they are actually designed for catering to all the needs of an event. So you can have your speakers, you can have your dashboards, you can have your reports, and that is why I was recommending if you can have a native Salesforce app, because native Salesforce app is more or like using Salesforce because it is built on Salesforce. So it is just an extension of Salesforce that we are using. So to answer that question, if you are actually looking for something which is seamlessly integrated with Salesforce and is on Salesforce, go for a native Salesforce app. It is actually a Salesforce app which you can seamlessly use.
Neeraj, in terms of when organizations have integrated their event app, whether they've had a third party or they've done it themselves, what are some of the challenges that have come up in doing that? Issues with syncing, fields, customization, you know, what are you seeing that people are having trouble with when they do an integration?
See, an integration process is a specific exercise that you have to do, and integration is more about syncing the data of your two systems. It's more about making the two systems talk to each other. And whenever you are doing that integration, it's very important to understand what is there in your current database and what is that you are trying to port to the other system. So that mapping is very important. And if I would recommend that if you don't have a in-house expertise team, it's always better to ask a technology consultant on how to do that process, because they have the required knowledge of doing those kind of integrations before, and they have got that kind of specialization in it. So they would be able to serve you through the entire process and that framework that they have done for maybe a lot of other customers of theirs. So it's always good to go for that expertise to do that integration, because if that is not done, then you may actually face problems during your integration, and then when your data is all messed up, it's very difficult to come out of it and fix those issues. So it's always good to take help and spend a lot of time with them to understand, so that they understand your system. They are able to guide you through the entire process, and if you feel comfortable that they are the people who are experts in that. You can just hire them and get the work done. It's better to seek for expertise rather than doing it yourself.
Julio asked the question, can I get a demo on Quantify? And Julio, that's definitely, we can definitely make that arrangement, especially since we are Quantify service partners. We've got a team of, I believe, over 20 certified developers on the Quantify platform. So that's definitely something we can set up for you. And we've got over 18 clients, and Neeraj, I know a handful of those work have Quantify Events as part of the module that they're using with Salesforce, correct?
Correct. Most of them are actually using Quantify Events because they have been recommended to use Quantify Events, or maybe they have searched that it's actually a native Salesforce app and they don't face any problems with it.
Okay. And then, Neeraj, you know, and this is really if there's someone that wants to work with a third party to help them with the integration, what are some steps that an organization needs to take to get ready to work with a third party? What should they be looking for in terms of that third party to give that information over to third party, say, hey, I need help, and this is what I need help with? What kind of information can they relay over?
I think it's good to start with, so like if you're searching for an event management app, or you have an event management app and you actually want to integrate that with Salesforce, it's better to hire a third party at the initial stage. And the information that you would try to give them is what is your existing system look like? What is your data mapping? What is the kind of thing you are looking for? Maybe you can tell them your needs of whether you are actually going for a fundraising events, what is the scale of the events that you are holding, whether you want to have regular events, or maybe there will be a lot of attendees in the events. So maybe just tell them about the requirements. And if you already have a event management app and you want to integrate that with Salesforce, it's better to give them access of your system so that they can actually understand what is there in your event management app system, what is there in your Salesforce system, and they are able to come up. So I think a lot of discovery sessions need to be done before doing the integration. And what comes out of those discovery sessions is that they will talk to your team, they will understand your business processes, they will understand your data. And once they have got that clear understanding, they will actually help you in guiding on what the roadmap would be for your integration. What are the steps that you have to take while doing it? So an integration exercise is actually a combined effort of the business and the obviously the technology partner, whoever you hire, to get the things done. And it's very important to have to take baby steps first, to do more of analysis on what needs to be done, and then go on with a full-blown integration once everything is signed off in terms of this is okay. Your team has signed off that these are the data mappings that are okay. We need this to be migrated to that, and this is what should be talking to each other. Once you have done that, I think then it would be a seamless process.
Do you have a recommendation? I know as conference planners and those that are actually trying to get the registration site up and running, they don't want anything to delay that process. You know, the goal is to get these people registered and get them engaged. What do you recommend with someone that wants to do integration? They want to keep the registration process going. Is there a way to do both at the same time, but still make sure you have the quality of the registration process intact?
Yeah, you can do that both at the same time, because just because you are doing integration cannot stop you from doing your conferences and events. So what generally expert technology consultant would do is he will not touch your production environment or your production database. He will figure out things in a sandbox environment or in a replica of that environment where he can actually test things parallelly. And once that has been done, then that would have a window where everything moves to the live system and the system is brought down. So the system downtime is minimal during all these things. So you carry on business as usual, and the consultant will actually do the work at the background. He does not need to touch your existing live systems or anything. You can do whatever you want to do.
Allison, I know that you're asking about a summary of the features for each app. We actually have about 4 blog articles that we'll be publishing along with the recording, and we'll make sure you get those. And that goes into detail on every topic that Neeraj just talked about today, not only from the benefits, but tips to integrating. But there's also a summary of some of these event apps that we recommend and some of their features. So definitely look out for that. Again, we've got a few more minutes. If anybody wants to ask any questions, feel free to ask them on our chat or Q&A. Neeraj, I do have one other question here is, for customers, clients that you've worked with and they've done the integration and there's, they're unhappy with something, something that just went wrong, not necessarily something we did, but just the way the integration works. What is the #1 complaint that you see out there that people say, this is just not working for me, we need to fix it? And then what did we, what do we do to fix that?
Yeah, I think the #1 problem that we get from all our customers is removal of duplicate data. So that is the #1 problem that we get from everyone. And that is because we have got systems where it was actually migrated before, and we see that when we are pulling out reports, the reports data is wrong, and that is wrong because the underlying data that has been migrated is wrong. So that is the complaint that is the #1 complaint that we receive from our users. And to mitigate that, and that is what I said when I said that you need to hire someone who's an expert on this and who has actually faced all these issues. So an expert technology consultant will actually map both of your databases, spend a lot of time in these discovery sessions before moving to the actual data migration. So you need to understand what your data is, get rid of the duplicates before you merge the 2 databases. And if you have done that, it's always a smooth integration and you don't get all these kind of issues. But even if you get it right, what our team does is, instead of fixing one issue at a time, what they try to do is, so if a customer, as an example, customer reports that this is the duplicate data that you remove. So there are 2 ways to do it. You just remove the duplicate data and that is done and customer is happy. The second option is that you do the root cause analysis and you find all the duplicate data in the system, and it will take more time, but that would be a permanent fix, and then you will not have that issue again. So it depends how you approach those tickets, and that approach is what sets the different technology consultants apart, right? So it must be more foresighted approach and more of a root cause analysis approach that you should be looking for in an expert.
Well, we're reaching to the top of the hour, so I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I hope this was informative and helpful. At the end of this webinar, you'll be asked to take a very quick survey to let us know how we did. And if there's any other information we can provide to you in the future, whether it's a webinar topic or questions that you may have, we'll make sure we get this webinar recording out to you, in addition to those blog articles that we mentioned. Neeraj, before we leave, is there anything that you'd like to leave everyone with today?
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would tell everyone is just visualize how you are planning to do your events, and just take different steps like we talked about. Integrate your app with Salesforce because it has all the benefits. Try to make use of the data that you can in your Salesforce system so that it's not a waste, and ask for help wherever required. Because sometimes for any customization or any kind of flexibility in your event management app, there will be people who can actually help you out and guide the process. And always look for a native Salesforce app as an event management app. that would actually help a lot in saving time for you and saving cost for your organization.
Well, thank you very much, Neeraj. I've enjoyed talking with you today and learning even more on the technical side of my own passion. I hope this was, again, it was helpful for the rest of you. Thank you again for joining us. If you need more information, definitely check out our website at aplusify.com. We do specialize in nonprofits and associations and making your Salesforce ecosystem even better than what you have it now. Again, thank you again, and we'll join us for our next webinar, and you can find those details on our website.